All right, hello everybody. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am very excited tonight. I am chatting with Frankie Delmane, uh, solo artist, as well as in several bands. The you're in the Crazy Squeeze and Teenage Frames, and you do a lot of different things. So anyway, thank you so much, Frankie, for joining me tonight. Very excited to be chatting with you.
Thank you, Victor, for having me.
How you doing, my friend?
I am doing very well, actually.
Good. Good.
I'm about 2 beers in, so
Nice.
and I've listened to copious amounts of rock and roll today. So I am
Awesome.
yes, I'm in a fantastic mood.
Excellent. What are you drinking, my friend?
I am drinking Stella tonight.
Cool.
My neighborhood, unfortunately, has few options because I'm always looking for like a good German beer, but I have to kind of travel to get that.
Gotcha.
At least out of my neighborhood, which is strange because you'd think in Hollywood. I mean, I live in central Hollywood. I live in the heart of Hollywood. Like, you want to know anything about Hollywood? Talk to me. Because I mean, I've lived in Hollywood for 20 years. I've lived in East Hollywood, West Hollywood, Central Hollywood. Haven't lived in North Hollywood, but I've been there many times. And I don't drive. So I take public transportation. I take the train, I take the buses, I walk the streets. I know this street. I know the city. I know everything about it. I am one of the street people, that is in Hollywood. And I was that way in Chicago too when I lived there too. I'm a total like in the streets type of person. I communicate with everybody that's on the streets. I see what's happening. I know what the people in the tents are doing, what they're not doing. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but anyways, all in a journey to get a German beer.
Yeah.
So that means I have to travel like God, Johnny Whitmer, the guitar player from Crazy Squeeze that I'm in a band with, who turned me on to beer in a big way. He knows where to get all the best beer, like literally in this city. This is a guy you can just say, where's the best beer? He'll tell you. So usually I have to go to him. But yes, anyway, so I'm drinking Stella, and you're drinking German beer today.
I am. Yeah, I've got a I'm probably not pronouncing this correctly. Velton's Pilsner.
Yeah, who knows?
Just delicious Pilsner. So but yeah. So again, thank you so much for joining me. So let's talk about what you got going on right now.
Okay.
And you always, I think you usually have a lot going on. I mean, you're involved with,
true, yeah.
I mean, you've got your own music, and then you're involved with other bands, and heavily involved with other bands as well. So, and just, so what do you have going on right now? What's happening with you?
Well, my focus right now is on the solo stuff. Cool. I have a band, Frankie Delmane and the Electric Needles, although I'm arguing with this production company that I'm actually doing work with. They want me to drop the Electric Needles name and just be solo sort of presentation. But I feel like the bands that I'm playing with, they bring so much to the songs that I don't want to alienate them from that process. So that's sort of like one of those weird professional tightrope walking things. But yeah, that's what I'm focusing on right now. I've been rehearsing with that a lot lately, and we just booked. Excuse me, it's this beer I'm drinking. Sorry. We booked. We're gonna play the Whiskey Go-Go with Andy McCoy, which I'm very excited about because we're all huge Hanoi Rocks fans, and
wow.
And I'm a fan of his solo stuff too. So he is going to be, I mean, this guy hasn't been able to come into the States for a long time. So this is a very special event. He's doing like 2 nights at the Whiskey in December. We got on the first night. So I'm looking forward to kind of like doing more things like that with the solo band, a presentation more venue oriented than with like the Crazy Squeeze, which is kind of the whole point of that band was to be a bar band, was to be a pub rock band, like to be like, just cram 200 sweaty people into the fucking shittiest bar in the world, and everybody gets drunk, and half the people are on meth, and everybody's like having sex. It was meant to be sort of this lascivious, dirty rock and roll bar thing. You know, it wasn't meant. We're not meant to play, I think, big places or arenas and stuff, because this is the art of what we do. Doesn't require that, you know, and we don't want to put the effort into what it requires to do that on that massive a scale, because the thing itself has to be this kind of living, breathing organism that just, it lives for that moment and then dies, and it lives for that moment and it dies. It's not supposed to be, you know, the thing. It's not like Journey, like you go and you see
Right.
it. It's like going to the Cirque du Soleil. I mean, that's what most big rock acts have turned into, you know, for better or for worse. And and that's just it's just a thing, you know. I'm not even criticizing it. It importantly has a place, but I think that people need to understand those distinctions too, because I think there's still a real living, breathing music community in the world that really craves human interaction and humans doing human things. And it isn't about like, can I auto tune my voice, or can we play everything, you know, on with a click track, or just phone everything in and computerize it. You know, it's like, I think people still want the mess, they want the slop, they want the inhuman. You know, that's why sex is so the greatest thing on earth, because it's just this transcendence we go through where we lose ourselves, and we you know, as Funkadelic put it, is part of the cosmic slop, you know. And so I feel like that's what the Crazy Squeeze is trying to do with the shows and the records and stuff, is just do something kind of like, you know, like that. Like, it doesn't have to mean anything. It doesn't have to be any greater thing than that, you know. And so and then Teenage Frames, the other band I have, that's a completely different entity altogether. That's like you know, that's like a transgressive power pop group that we started in the 90s that has done some very weird things that I'm proud of, but it's a strange band that I still have a deep passion for. But and we're actually making a record. We're making a record. Like, I've been writing. We've recorded 12 of the songs. We're writing the last batch of songs to put that record into existence, and we're going to make it a pretty big production. You know, we're going to hire some heavy hitters or something to mix it, you know, to make it sound. But I think the content of it is what's important, and that's what. Anyways, God, see, I get off on these tangents, and I don't even.
This is good. This is great.
Where the original point we were on. Oh, you were just asking me what I was doing.
Well, what you're up to.
So that is all I'm doing. Like, it's pretty much like Crazy Squeeze, probably some sort of European tour next year. Hopefully something.
Cool.
I'd like to do something in the States as well, and then a new album. We're gonna make something really quick, I think, and really like brutal. Like, I want to make something really like loud and obnoxious and rock and roll. And because I think the first two Crazy Squeeze records they're very good, and they're too refined. I think we need to do something more chaotic. You know, like when I was gonna say when the Stooges did X, what didn't the Stooges do? That was Unhinged, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Except for the first album, maybe, but something more like that, more like just like, okay, we're just gonna go in the studio and we're just gonna turn it on and see what comes out.
Nice.
But yeah, Teenage Frames, this record we're making, I'm so thoroughly excited because I co-write with the guitar player in Teenage Frames, and he has really high standards in what he allows in terms of lyrical content, in terms of song structure. He has a real good idea about what it should be and how intricate it should be. So I kind of, you know, that's why I love working with other people. That's why maybe if I'd been a complete egotist, and I mean, I have an ego like any rock singer does, but if I was a complete ruthless egoist, you know, maybe I would have been a rock star at this point, but in the, you know, greater pantheon of the world or whatever.
Right, yeah.
You know, then I would have, you know, but then I would have just had to step over a bunch of people. And I kind of experienced that when I was a teenager. You know, I did go through a phase where I was kind of locally successful in a certain scene, and I kind of was a shitty person, you know, and I think it meant more to me to be a better person and do this than just be a total scumbag. I mean, believe me, I fired people right after we got off stage. I was like that ruthless. I would be like, yeah, you're out. You know, like literally, they hadn't even gotten done putting their instrument away. You know, so I was ruthless, and you know, and the reason people do that is because it's effective, because people are looking for a very strong identity, you know, musically or image wise, or hopefully they're looking for it all together. And that's why you get people that are just like, no, 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 if I can get rid of you. So I understand it. But I just thought, God damn, I don't want to be that guy. What I want to be is I want to be the smart guy who just falls into finding the best people to help create the vision, you know, and you allow those people to do their job. You say, be the guitar player, be the drummer, you know, and you just find somebody who plays within that, just that beautiful style you're looking for, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now with everything, with music, Teenage Franz, Crazy Squeeze, my solo thing. I'm always working on stuff, yeah, because it is my passion, and but I call it a compulsion, because I'm so obsessed with doing it. Like I wake up every day and I'm just like, ooh, well, let me write a song today. Oh, okay, well, first let me watch a couple pirate movies, and then maybe I'll get inspired to write a song about the way Orson Welles looks into the camera. You know, like I get so turned on by other great arts. Like you watch movies, you read books, you look at paintings. I mean, and you look at that, and if you have any sense at all, you have an immediate emotional reaction. If you're a creative person, you take that emotional reaction and you try to explain it to yourself. And 9 times out of 10, you never do. But what you end up doing is coming up with something that may explain it to somebody else. So that's why I'm just blown away with writing and the creative process, and writing songs and writing lyrics or writing anything. It's such an insanity to me that like human beings have this. This is what we offer the world. This is really our purpose, I think, because human beings, what good are we? I mean, if you think about it, in the grand scheme of the universe and the earth, we are kind of pathetic. We're just takers. We don't give anything back to the earth. You know, we're just like killing animals, ripping from the forest and stuff. And, you know, and I'm not trying to get moralistic about like, oh God, we couldn't do these things. I mean, we can, whatever you want to say about this stuff, that's your opinion. But the point I'm making is that that's just kind of who we are as a race. So the one thing we can do is take care of each other, make sure that other human beings don't get fucked up. Because if we really let it, I mean, whales will eat us or lions will eat us. I mean, you know, it's like nature hates us and is literally trying to kill us every day. So the idea is that human beings we should be taking care of each other, because it's like, Jesus Christ, you know, this shit out here. Like the minute you step outside your door, something's trying to kill you, whether you know it or not. You know, where it's the air or, you know, it's something. So and it sounds nihilistic or pessimistic, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to be almost like just an awareness, you know, and so that allows you to connect to people better. And so that's our job, to connect with each other, take care of each other, and then create for each other, because that's the only way we're going to be able to understand and see the beauty of the things that are trying to kill us, if that makes sense. You know? So this is sort of why I have an obsession with doing this, you know, because to me, it's a way in. It's a way, like some people have religion. Some people go, you know, are Catholic or raised Christian or Mormon or whatever it is. And that suffices for them, because I understand that as well. That religion is a place in which, whether people believe all the nuances or the variations on it or not, is irregardless. The thing itself provides a spiritual center of growth for many, many people. And so that's an important factor all human beings need in their life. Me, I have music. I have the creative process. I've opened my mind to that universe. So I don't really need religion because music is my religion.
Cool.
And that is what compels me to, going back to the original point, stay busy. Why I'm doing so much damn shit all the time.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
And having a beer too.
No, there you go. And
so, drinking is part of that.
Yeah, I agree. And so for people that aren't familiar with your music, I'll admittedly, I'm a new fan. I just recently discovered you and was really blown away. And one thing I love about your music, and I don't know if this is your intent or but for what I'm getting from it is this very cool, like late 60s, early 70s garage rock, at least your solo stuff, this garage rock vibe with elements of punk and like even shock rock, like in the vein of like Alice Cooper, like early Alice Cooper, stuff like that. And but it's also very, very original and very fresh. And it's really struck me. And one thing you mentioned, kind of the visual, your love of art and film and things like that. But that's another thing that I thought was really cool is with your videos that you've put out there is you've got these old fascinating 70s films in the videos that you've released, at least on YouTube with your music, which is always I don't know, it's really interesting, it's really fascinating. So I don't exactly know what my question is here, but I was curious kind of how that all came about.
If I think you're correct, the message has been received. That is my intent. I think that the way in which you describe the music is absolutely perfect, and it's the way that I wanted to present it. It's because it's the thing that I think I'm best at doing. There are some people that are just absolutely astonishing at being original and great at the same time. I lack some of that ability, I think, in that that I work within an already established construct, which is rock and roll, which is the three chords and sort of, there's not much new, I think, that I can add to that dialogue. When I was younger, I was in different types of musical bands. I was in hardcore bands, punk bands, played death metal bands. Mm-hmm. And it's a funny story, is actually the death metal band that I played in. This is back in 1986, 87, 88. We were strictly death metal. I mean, like, we're talking hardcore underground death metal. And I remember I used to do tape trading, and I got a tape from a band from Florida one day. It was their first demo tape. It's a band called Morbid Angel. Oh, so the guy writes me this letter, and he says, "Hey, I'm the guitar player from this band Morbid Angel, Florida." He's like, I think your demo is really cool and stuff. He's like, "You might like our stuff." And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool, man." So I put the tape in, and I literally, my reaction was like Bill Paxton and Aliens. I was like, game over. I was like, I'm done. This is it. I can't. Who's gonna top this? For pure, unadulterated death metal attack that takes it to the next level and doesn't do so with some level of like technical trickery or studio manipulation. I mean, this is their pure sound in a rehearsal space or an 8-track studio, wherever they went.
Right.
And I was just so blown away by that. I was like, I gave up. I literally, like, and so then the band I was in, we didn't quit, but we mutated into something completely different because we wanted to be original. Because, we were all like, well, shit, we only could take it here. Everyone else, these guys are taking it here. So what can we do? So then we mutated into this sort of some weird, awful thing. But it was highly original. It was like you'd never heard anything like it before. But it was just this weird mishmash of styles that didn't quite work. And that is when I just kind of became somewhat of a musical reactionary. Because after I'd done that, I was kind of like, well, I kind of did everything I was supposed to do in terms of like being a 16, 17-year-old kid at that time period. I was doing pretty much what you're supposed to be doing on the cusp of something. And spent all this time making this highly original music, only to turn around and listen to it and go, this is garbage. This is terrible. You know, I mean, we wanted to do what ultimately Mr. Bungle succeeded at doing.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I mean? That kind of like really those really intense, massive hybrid of styles that kind of all come together in a fluid presentation. And we had no concept how to make it like that. And we had elements, but those guys, I mean, you just listen. That's another record you listen to go, oh, this is kind of how you do this, you know. And so at that point, I became a little bit of a musical reactionary, and I just went back to the basics. I said, you know what? I remember, I think I picked up like a 45, you know, in a record store. I think it was a Reckless Eric song, and I listened to it, and I was like, I'm just going to do that. That's it. I'm stripping it back. It's all going to be Buddy Holly. It's just going to be simple, direct. You know, I'm just going to say what I got to say, and, you know, because it's just like I'm going to get rid of all the prog, get rid of all, you know, stuff I went through that I wasn't very good at anyways, and just try to hone this thing to be the best version of that. So that's what I'm hoping, you know, I accomplish, you know, with the stuff.
I would say you definitely have achieved that. So yeah, I think that's what like I said, that's what kind of struck me is, there's this, like Stooges and Lou Reed and all these cool elements that you brought into what you're doing, and then, you know, really interesting lyrics that and that's the other thing I really like about it, especially your lyricism, is you don't pull any punches. Say it how it is. There's no bullshit.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. The one thing that's probably ruined me in the entirety of my existence in sort of like writing rock songs, rock and roll music, or rock songs, since I was 22, I guess I would say, was when I really sort of focused in on that, was that from day one, I was like, there's no way I'm just going to keep writing this, you know, I'm not going to keep writing the same things that, you know, have been written, because the inclination most people have to do when they're like, hey, we're going to be like, you know, Blondie or something, you know, they're going to, you know, Blondie has a song called, you know, whatever, Sunday Girl. They'll write a song called Wednesday Girl. You know, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm good, because I want it to have my personal fingerprints on it, you know, and the only way to have it is to have an original lyrical perspective. I mean, that's the only way you're going to be able to sell anything to anybody, is like, so you can hear me saying, no, I'm actually saying this stuff because this is how I actually feel. And I've written some songs too that I've sent to, say, you know, the guitar player from James Francis, and he's just like, no fucking way. He's like, he's like, this is so dark. Like, I had a song called I've Got a Lot of Hatred for the World Today. And it's literally, that's what it's about. I got a lot of hatred for the world today, but it's also like pathetic, because I'm saying nobody's going to save my soul tonight. Fuck it. The world should just burn. It's almost like it's almost sad, because it gets you close to feeling it gets you close to that emotion of where you're starting to understand, like, you know, shooters and incels and things like that. You know, it gets you to that point where we've all been, you know, I think, in the emotional undertow, where we have felt just desperate, and you have just felt like there is no answer in sight for the disaster that is my life, or whatever's happened, you know. And of course, we probably blow things out of proportion and exaggerate stuff when we look back on it. But luckily, I get to write a song about it and kind of like get to become detached from it, and then listen back to it and go, okay, I was really pissed off that day, man, Jesus, you know. But at the same time, I thought, I'm going to put this out into the world, because if I feel that way, somebody else has to feel that way. And maybe this song, in some small way, will hit that person, and they'll say, fuck yeah, I feel like I got a lot of hatred for the world today. And you can just hopefully listen to the song on a loop until you can just, you know, wrench enough of it outside of yourself to, like, not go on a killing spree, or, you know, or not say disastrous things to people just to push them away from you, you know, because there's different ways we do those negative things, you know. And for me, it's always been music has helped me, you know, when I was a teenager, you know, when I was at my angriest, 16, 17, 18, I was listening to nothing but death metal. I mean, just strict, and it had to be disgusting, gnarly, hard, mean stuff because I was angry. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, all sorts of family stuff, dramas, and you know, just all sorts of things you go through, especially, you know, all the hormones that are, you know, wreaking havoc on you.
Yeah.
And so I was just angry, man. I was so mad all the time. I was really into vandalism and breaking shit and, you know, just listening to Bathory records and taking LSD and fuck the world and wearing my skull rings and shit and everybody should die. And, you know, I was really, really mad. But I have to say, if I did that, music saved me.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the music that kept me that kept me above all of it. You know, like I was angry and yeah, I did some stupid shit, but the music always kept me in a place of like stillness and calm. So no matter what, I could listen to, you know, Sodom and just grinding away at these massive songs about death and gore and stuff. And there was a peace there that just enveloped me that I felt I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm not a bad person. I don't want to be mean. You know, it's like I got this, and it just and then you know, and eventually I got older and started to understand different types of music that could do that also in different ways. You know, like you could listen to Motown songs and kind of get the same elevation too. But I think it's also important for people to understand that something as extreme as, you know, the most extreme death metal can provide a spiritual component in a way that I think gospel music can, you know. So I just, it's just a matter of the person and what they're you know, and what they're getting out of it and what they're investing in and stuff. So that was my place for it, and it man, it saved me, definitely. I mean, Slayer saved my life.
Nice.
Not a lot of people say that, you know.
Yeah,
but it's true.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't have like the angel of death in my life, that opening scream Tom Araya does, I'm just like, that is the cry of victory. I mean, that is like every enemy you have ever had is just vanquished in that scream.
Yeah.
And if you can live vicariously through that, problem solved, you know. So to me, that is the glory of music, you know. It's like, phew.
Yeah, all the better. I totally agree. And and I think that's the thing that definitely attracts me to your music as well, is there's that same kind of element, that honest, there's no, like I said before, there's no bullshit with your lyricism. It's very honest, it's very open. I mean, you know, you look at what's Street Penetration. Man, what a great song. And it's dark. But it has that same, it's weird. I feel the exact same way. You nailed, you know, definitely nailed that right on the head, that these darker, you know, because I grew up listening to death metal and you know, thrash metal and stuff, and it's for me, same with you, it's uplifting. It's like gospel music, like exactly what you said before. And I find that those same sort of elements in your music and your, especially in your lyrics, is there's that, you know, that it kind of draws out that pain, and it's like, oh yeah, I feel the same way. This,
nice.
You know, like that's cool to you know, and that's what I really liked about your music, and still like about it.
That's all I could ask for. I really, really am flattered. I appreciate that. That's you know, you know, I write songs all the time, and I guess that's all you hope for, is that people are gonna kind of connect with your emotional input, what you're putting into those songs. So I appreciate that. That's, you know, that is and I just love to do it so much. I mean, I wish, you know, here's the funny thing, is that for years, probably for decades, like most musicians, most people who play music, I had the obsession with like, oh, somebody should pay me to do this. You know, I wish I was making a living doing this. Like, why can't I make a living doing this? Why is, you know, look at all these hacks out here. Look at all this horrible trash pop music that gets just shoved down our throats. And you can't tell me people are buying that crap. People, there's streaming farms that are just enacting some sort of weird media circus. So, but then I realized, especially during the pandemic and this post-pandemic world we live in, that being famous may not be a good thing.
Yeah.
And maybe having to solely make money off your music is also not another good thing, because you can't express yourself the way you always want to express yourself. You are always making product for somebody to fill a void. And even the best bands become victims of the marketplace.
Yeah.
So they have to do something that is, you know, like U2 has to stay U2 forever. You know, people want them to be the Joshua Tree or whatever for infinity.
Yeah.
And their biggest successes always come when they just copy that formula and then put it back out into the ether. So I kind of thought, you know, I mean, there's one side of it where you're like, oh, you know, it's easy to say that because you didn't succeed or something, you know, or you're not at that space after 30 years of doing this. And, you know, you try to build some reasoning for yourself. But I think also I've experienced in my younger days and going through my 20s, and, you know, when you're on the rise and you're sort of in a band that like people at major labels are looking at and all this stuff, which have had all that stuff. I've experienced all those things that, like, you know, 5-star hotels, limousines, you know, people courting you, all this, you know, wonderful stuff. And, you know, I just want to take a lift and live in a 1-bedroom apartment and drink and smoke some weed and write songs and play shows and hang out with people. You know, it's like, that's not what I don't need. I don't need a golden fucking toilet. I don't need a palace. I don't need 5 cars. I don't need, you know, I never did this because of sex. I never once was like, oh yeah, this is gonna get me laid or something. That was never even a thought on my mind. I mean, it was always like, the thing itself was just so fucking amazing to me that you could like make things and then you could perform them in front of people on stage, and then you could have this energy exchange with them where maybe they like it, maybe they don't like it. I've had some of the worst experiences. I mean, I've had people, I remember one of my first shows when I was about 15, I played a place in Portland called the Satyricon, and I was just endlessly pelted with bottle caps, beer bottle caps by fucking Nazi skinheads. Just like a line of them in front of the stage, just throwing them at me. You suck, you fucking pussy, you suck and shit. And I just stood there, sang my songs. And I remember after I got off stage, I was like, I'm meant to do this. Because those guys didn't faze me. Didn't faze me at all.
That's good.
I've had other experiences where people have attacked me, hated my band so much they attacked me.
Really?
That happened once. I was opening for The Accused. I'm walking up to the stage and some guy comes right up to me, and he's way bigger than me, spins me around and goes, you in that band, you know, the band's opening? And I'm like, yeah. He just grabbed me, threw me on the ground, was like, yeah, I hate you and I hate your band, you suck. And I'm just like, Jesus, you know, and I just got up and I just, you know, I was a little shaken, but then I thought to myself, well, shit, I'm going to play this show in front of like 600 people, and this guy's going to still be pissed off in the back of the venue, you know? So it was easy to kind of like let that go. But yeah, you know, all that shit, I've been through endless amounts of abuse, you know, just being a rock singer and being on stage and stuff, and not being famous, and not, you know, being somebody who persists on doing this year after year and putting himself in that place. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, cool. Jesus Christ, this life has provided me with more excitement and energy and I mean, everything.
And it's definitely, I mean, I definitely don't want to give those skinheads or that guy that threw you down an out at all, but there's something to be said about, you know, because art, good art, real art, you react to it, whether it's negative or positive.
Yeah.
So, and again, I don't excuse that kind of behavior. That's fucked up. But at the same time, if they didn't give a shit, they wouldn't have thrown bottle caps at you or thrown you on the ground. So
that's true.
That's
again,
I don't know what my point is exactly.
I don't know. It's just my many crazy stories on the road of rock and roll. I mean, I played a show. This was my death metal band that mutated into like some weird hard rock thrash metal hybrid thing. I don't know. We were trying to do something. Anyways, we got a chance to open for Death, which of course was like the holy grail. I mean, that'll still be one of the greatest things I've ever done is perform on the same stage. I mean, Chuck Schuldiner and fucking Death.
Yeah.
I mean, man. Cam Lee was the only person I ever based a vocal style off of when I was doing death metal. He was just, I used to listen to those Death demos obsessively. Yeah. I was even disappointed with Scream Bloody Gore when it came out because it didn't sound like the Basement demos. Yeah. Because the Basement demos are so heavy. Yeah. And they're so guttural and they're just all like I mean, Cam Lee sounds like just like a fucking wailing banshee from hell. And I was just so impressed by that. I was like, that's what you do, that's the style you do. But anyways, we were on for Death, and this was after we kind of transitioned. I know I sound we transitioned into this. It was almost like that. We transitioned into this kind of weird band, and so we're playing the show, and this is a sold out show. So I would say about 70% of the audience was with us. About 30% of us hated us. And you had your death metal purists who were just like, fuck you guys, you shit and stuff, which I totally got. Like, I totally sympathize. But there was a lot of Nazi skinheads there. And they were literally just like, we're going to kill you. We're going to murder you and fucking murder you and shit. And they're just yelling shit at me, threatening me. And I'm like, so of course, me being me at that time, which I would not kick the hornet's nest at this age. But I had to just go, oh, yeah. You guys want to fuck me? Start rubbing my nipples and shit. I'm just start talking shit to them. Oh, wow. And it just became this, it was bad. So anyways, the show, we get done, we go downstairs. Then my bass player is like, let's go upstairs and go see if any of them guys fuck with us. And I was like, serious? And he's like, yeah, I got your back, man. And my bass player was like 6'4", like a huge dude, So he was just like, fuck yeah, I got your back. And we walked up there. Not one of them said one word to us. You know what I mean? It's just like, because there are all those, they're kind of cowards in the end. But anyways, I guess my ultimate point being that I wouldn't trade any of those experiences and all the bad shit I went through. Oh, bless you. And all the bad shit that I went through over the years, because it is all part of the adventure. I mean, I don't think anybody who's played rock and roll in any capacity, extreme or light, even soft rock, doesn't have wild, insane stories, both good and bad, because that's part of the life you choose. Most people are like, well, I just, I went to school. Most of the people I went to school with, I can't even think of anybody I went to school with. I mean, like junior high or high school that went out and decided they were going to just, piss in the wind and fucking go have some crazy lifestyle. Everybody kind of went, got a career, had a family and stuff. And those are fantastic things. I mean, I have friends who have done both, who have succeeded as musicians and have families as well. I'm actually house sitting for one of my really good friends I'm going to be house sitting for him next week. Who is an actor who, the same thing, went on the adventure of doing something artistic and then, ended up meeting somebody and then having kids but still does stuff has a very popular YouTube channel, and still does his thing, but also does all the other stuff. For me, this is it. I mean, I couldn't imagine like bunkering down and,
right, with
anybody or with anything. It's just, I mean, maybe at some point when I'm just like super old and I'm just like, all right, I give up. I'll just, the next cool person I meet, I'm just gonna like hang out with for the rest of my life. But yeah, I'm still just so ready to just go do things and make more music and tour the world and meet more people. And I don't know, just try to spread as much common sense. I wouldn't even say joy. Like, that's another thing about a lot of the songs I write too is that in there, there's always like, I'm always trying to say something about behavior. You know, and I'm not moral, you know, and there's no judgment. I'm a firm believer in that as long as it doesn't involve really violating somebody, do what you like, you know. I mean, as long as you're not violating somebody else in a sort of physical or aggressively psychological manner, do what you like, you know. But so
I like that. I think that's a good philosophy, and that's and I think it's interesting that you say that. There's another song of yours, and I can't get the title right in my head right now, but it's the White Pigs.
Oh, working for the White Pigs.
Working for the White Pigs, which I thought was brilliant, because it's not. You took it. What I loved about it is you took it a step further. It's like, it's not about working for the man. It's working for the white pigs. It's working for, you know, and again, it's that honesty that you have with your lyricism, which I really love and respect. Is you don't pull punches, and it's I mean, because there's plenty of songs like, oh yeah, working for the man, where you're like, no, working with these fucking white pigs.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's like our whole society is sort of rooted in that.
Yeah.
And the strange thing is that people take such offense to certain language. And yes, you can say calling somebody a pig is a negative, but if you really look at what it means just something that will consume the shit out of anything.
Yeah.
That's what a pig is. That's what a pig does. A pig will eat through, what is that thing? It's I love that movie Snatch, where that character Bricktop is like, you know, a fucking pig will eat through a bone in like 90 seconds or something.
Yeah.
And pigs, you know, that's what pigs are. And so I'm almost saying in a literal sense. I'm not saying it almost to be, I mean, you could take it insulting if you want to, but you know, I'm not insulted by pigs. Pigs are just what they are. Yeah. We just happen to be dealing with a root of our issues are dealt with, you know, white piggery, I guess. You know, and so that can be seen as political too, I guess. But it's just the root. I'm just saying it's the root of where it comes from. I'm not saying it's even the proliferation of what's happening today. I'm just talking going. If you know, everything I actually do is always down to the base root anyways. It's always about, so even if I seem like I'm saying something complex, it always comes down to some basic, like, be nice to your neighbor, or you know, shut the door. It's like I said, it all comes down to common sense. It's like turn the light off when you're not using it. You know, it's like it all comes from my dad too. I'm probably still traumatized from my childhood of my dad being obsessed with that level of order in the house, you know, of like, who left the lights on? Who left this TV on? Why is the garage door open? What are you doing right now? And I don't mean that, once again, most things I say these days in my life, that people can interpret things as negative. I say that with much affection. And
I think
my dad is
we have the same father. I think we have the same dad.
Anybody who's ever had a dad, you know, we all have different relationships with our fathers, and mine were always, my dad it was always contentious. You know, it was a classic American dad-kid relationship. You know, the dad's not there to be your friend. He's there to be your dad, you know, but you want him to be your friend when you're a kid. Why isn't my dad my friend? And you're like, he's like, because you shit your pants. That's why I can't be your friend. I gotta teach you how not to shit your pants. So you don't understand that, I think, until you get older. And you know, in some transgressions, if you're lucky, I've been lucky in that you can, you know, settle them as you get older. You know, you talk to your parents about them and say, well, you did this, you know, or something like that. And they're like, oh shit, I don't remember that at all, because they never remember. Like your parents, that's the one thing that there's one thing that I think all children need to understand and realize, that I didn't realize until I was like 40 or something, which is your parents don't remember a lot of shit, because just like you, when you're 30 or 40, what do you remember? What do you remember from Monday to Friday?
Yeah.
You could probably barely remember half your day because you're just too busy doing shit.
Yeah.
So now add kids to that equation. So you're not going to remember every time you told your kid to hurry up, move it, did this, do that. And then, but a kid's going to remember everything.
Yeah.
And of course, that's obviously the weird balance parents have to live within, which is why I'm not a parent. But I recognize that as an adult, though, now that I look at my parents differently. I go, oh yeah, that's right. Like I was being a fucking difficult.
Yeah.
And and they're just trying to corral you, and
right.
So, yeah.
Trying to not to let you kill yourself doing stupid shit. Yeah. Exactly.
But that is imbued in those, that does show up in those songs, and that I think everything can be melted back to a basic thing. If I'm saying anything, sometimes it's just observations, like Street Penetration is literally one of the reasons I also use the movie, one of my favorite movies too is Savage Streets. In that video, the Linda Blair film, which I absolutely love, is that that song's about Hollywood. It's street penetration. It's about being on the streets in Hollywood all the time. Like I'm on the streets in Hollywood like 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 6 a.m. I'm 10 a.m. I've been drunk. I've been drugged out. I've been every single thing you can imagine. I've been out on those streets, and you see a lot, and you talk to a lot of different people. I mean, I was just like, I'm not a snob, if that's a good way to put it. But like, so for instance, I was out on Hollywood Boulevard. I was smoking some weed the other day. I always have this one hitter on me because I smoke a lot of weed. Like I smoke more weed, definitely more than I drink. I smoke a lot of weed. I'm hanging out. There's always street people and stragglers coming by, and they always think I have a cigarette because this looks like a cigarette.
Oh yeah.
But if dudes want to get a little stoned or something, I'll give them a little high. I don't care if they're crazy, schizophrenic, street people or something. I got my I always got my handy wipes and sanitizer on me to clean off the one hitter. No one's gonna give me anything. I just think that if we had a more presence of mind of people, much like the Europeans do, where you see crazy people on the street all the time. Now, some of these people you see, especially in America, are just straight up fucked up drug addicts who don't give a shit. There's some people who are just gaming the system, who are living in tents just because they can, and they don't care. There's a lot of people that actually like to camp. So to them, they're just like, well, if I camp in a tent on the street in LA, what's the difference between doing that or in the mountains?
Right.
So people have they've brought their level of what they're willing to tolerate to a place where they kind of look at it like that. They can plug. I mean, out here in LA, the street lights and stuff, they all have outlets in them. So people set up a tent and just plug the TV in. I go by tents down the street all the time, and there's people watching TV in there. And there's smoking crack, watching TV, eating Reese's peanut butter cups.
Wow.
Not giving a shit in the world. Now, fundamentally, I don't have a problem with that. That's why I think there should just be housing. It's just all about the aesthetic. The tents suck. They look like shit. Somebody got to build some cubicle for this person to go do the shit in. I mean, that's the way I look at it. But anyways, that is what that song's about. So each line about that, cut down the main line, is cut down the main line. The first line is people, they've just cut down the main line to everything. They're intense. They've cut down, they don't, there's people that are living in those tents that used to live in $1 million homes, but they think, they get to a point, or they get to such a point of desperation, either with their addictions or money loss, heartbreak. I mean, a lot of those people, some people just go crazy. Some people get the wrong medication from their, psychiatrist, and then lose their minds. There's people, who are famous movie actors and stuff, or people who are in a big TV show at one point, they end up on the street. I mean, it's a shocking thing to see, but it exists. So So anyways, that is kind of like the long way around what that song's about.
Oh, interesting. That's really fascinating. I wanted to circle back a little bit. Not so much circle back, just when you were talking about your upbringing, your dad. It made me curious about your musical upbringing and kind of where that started. Did you come from a musical family? Like, what got you into music? What got you playing and performing, and how did that start?
I came from a family where there's not one musician.
Oh, interesting.
Nobody, not one. Everyone okay, well, first of all, this could probably explain things too, is that I was adopted. So I was adopted at birth. So I never, I wasn't in an orphanage or anything like that. My parents, back in the day when you could do such things, got me through like their gynecologist or something. My mom, was like, "Oh, we're thinking about adopting a kid." And my gynecologist back then could just be like, "Well, I got like 3 people. They're ready to give up their kids. Which one do you want? One's coming in a month, one coming in 3 months." And so my dad wanted another boy because my mom didn't want to get pregnant. So my dad's like, "Well, why don't we just adopt the kids?" So they adopted me. So that I think explains a lot, because I have nothing in common with either side of the family. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's
Right.
who I am. And they know that, and they accept who I am, and have had to accept who I am as a kid, because I was untamable. I was one of those kids who was like, they didn't know what to do with me. I mean, my parents were good parents. They were just working class, and they were trying to get me to be a teacher or a welder, or just find a trade, find a career, and stuff. And I'm like literally like, nah, my profession is gonna be me, and they're just like, yeah, good luck with that one. But at the same time, they let me be me, because they knew that they knew I wasn't an idiot, but they knew I was not going to put the time into being a genius. I just didn't have the patience. I didn't have the patience to do schoolwork. I didn't have the patience to, do any of that stuff. But so I didn't know. Nobody in my family was into music. They weren't into the arts. They weren't nobody. I mean, literally nobody. My dad has 8 brothers and 3 sisters. Not one of them plays an instrument. Not one of them had any kids that played an instrument. Not one of them had it. None of my cousins liked anything artistic. Nobody was a painter. Nobody was nothing. So that was something that I never thought about until I got into being creative myself. But by that time, my family had gotten, my parents had gotten divorced, and there was a whole splinter in the family, to the point where it didn't matter. None of that mattered. But so anyways, I grew up in a household where everybody listened to a fundamentally different music. Like my dad would come home. My dad was a welder. He would come home, read encyclopedias, listen to classical music. That was his thing. He was into Bach, Beethoven, all this shit. He would just like sit there and then yell at us to go do things. And my mom, the complete opposite. My mom drank beer, smoked cigarettes, listened to nothing but country music.
Oh,
and
wow.
and it was like, my dad was a Democrat, my mom was a Republican. I mean, it was just like this total, complete 2 sides of the country thing. And then my sister and me, we listened to whatever was on the radio, new wave. We liked all the like hits of the, when I was like 8 or 9 or whatever was popular, I liked. And my brother, he just listened to FM hard rock stuff. So bands like Kiss and Queen and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, my brother listened to all that stuff. So I never got into that stuff, because I was like, that stuff my older brother likes, all that crap, So I was never into like classic rock like that. But me and my sister, we would listen to like Casey Kasem's Top 40, whatever, Culture Club, all that shit. So I was into some kind of like new wave pop music, whatever. But when MTV kicked in, everything, how like early MTV, so many things just kind of converged at once.
Yeah.
You would see like Human League's Don't You Want Me video, and then you would turn around and you'd see You Got Nothing Coming by Judas Priest.
Right.
So for me, that's that's where the rubber hit the road. All of a sudden I would see Iron Maiden, but then I would also see the Psychedelic Furs, and I would think, both of these things are like super awesome in their own way. So I was never like attracted to just metal or just new wave. It just became this thing where I was like, it was all of them. But then I discovered punk. And punk to me kind of was the amalgamation of those things. Like you got everything in punk. It was loud and obnoxious and hard rocking, but then it was sort of artsy and people were in makeup and had weird haircuts and and so that world to me became everything. Like I was just like, all right, punk rock. So I just fell into that. And then from that point onward, it was all me. Like my mom bought me a toy drum kit when I was like in fourth grade. They humored me, with stuff like that. But I think same with teachers and stuff. I think they're all just like, this kid he doesn't want to sit down and learn. Like I try to take classes like music classes, for drumming and try to sight read music. And I was like, fuck this, man. Why do I need this shit? All I need to do is hit one chord on the guitar and start yelling.
Right.
So yeah, that was it. So then punk happened, and then I realized that punk music had so many different sides to it. And the one band, which I think this is a story for many, many people, the one band in the middle of this melee of loving all different sides of punk, whether it was post-punk or arty punk or just, Yabo punk or whatever, Motorhead. Motorhead. I mean, this is the only tattoo I have.
Nice.
Spade. And it is because of Motorhead. Because Motorhead, like, they just cut through everything.
Yeah.
They just are like a fucking buzzsaw. And it's just like, who gives a fuck about anything else after that? Like, people said that about the Ramones in the 70s, which I believe to be true. But I think in the 80s, it was Motorhead. I think Motorhead just like, and I don't think anybody else has done it since. Like there's certain bands, I mean, I'm sure there has. I mean, there are certain bands that are just so singularly what they are. And that's what all great records are anyways, like the first Guns N' Roses record, Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks, they're these total solid things that are just like, they're literally they just cut through it. And you're just kind of like, whenever it gets turned on, you're like, well, game over. Like, that's it for that, And so when I discovered Motorhead, it kind of, I think that was the bridge that led me everywhere else. Because from Motorhead, you can get to Jerry Lee Lewis, but you can also get to Metallica. You could get to anybody from Motorhead, So they're a fascinating band to discover, especially when I discovered them too, because for me, I wasn't old enough to discover them during their first like initial phase with Fast Eddie, and I arrived at Another Perfect Day.
Oh,
and I think because of that, I love that record. I still love that record. I think it's a real unique, special thing that they didn't never copy, ever again, and probably for rightful reasons. But there's something special about that record. I think now that you look at their whole canon of work, you're like, that is kind of I mean, then again, Motorhead are one of those groups that like, Lemmy's no longer with us, and now you've got this whole body of work that just sits there as is. So now you get to kind of file through everything, stuff you missed, the later albums, I think a lot of people missed, and you start to hear it all in a different way because everything gets recontextualized because there was an ending. So now you have a beginning and an ending to this person's career. So now you can start to really see the whole picture of the film, that was their life, and some people, don't have much to say at the end. And I think Lemmy was saying stuff till the end, though. Like even that last album they did, you're like, oh, there's some tight shit on those records.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff, especially
so Motorhead was so as far as musical progression goes, like nobody in my family, nobody got turned on music. It was such a singular thing too in my neighborhood. because I was, I had originally come from Chicago Heights, Illinois, and my parents moved us to Portland, Oregon. And so this is where I'm roughly around 10. So my parents moved us there, and all of a sudden I'm in this completely different world, completely different landscape, completely different neighborhood, type of people, everything. There was nobody I went to school with that had any musical aspirations or artistic aspirations. It just wasn't that kind of community. And I, I want to emphasize that that's not a negative. A lot of people, they come out with these stories like, yeah, I mean, I was fucking fuck those squares, and and suburban shitheads and stuff like that. It wasn't like that at all. Those people were fucking awesome. I had a lot of great times in that neighborhood. There were some great people. It's just that world is geared towards people who go on and become the school intendant, superintendent, or secretaries or mechanics, or just the community leaders, basically. And I was never going to be that person. And it was so strange to me that in an entire community of people, like maybe one or two other people went outside of that community and did stuff. That initial place that I lived in, which was called Somerset West, Oregon. Yeah. So for me, it was an oasis. So finding music. It's
cool.
Like, oh my God. Wow.
That's really cool. All right. So I was curious about, so you mentioned kind of touring. The kind of next thing one of the things you wanted to do was tour in Europe. Do you have any touring lined up currently for the States? You guys,
No,
in any band?
It's man, after the pandemic, which is, technically, is it over? I mean, we don't know. I mean, man, it's just something we live with, and now we live with monkeypox, and now, I guess we're all going to die at some point of some horrendous medieval disease, but yeah, so it's been kind of slow going coming back from that. I mean, Crazy Squeeze, we played a couple shows locally, but I think we're kind of like taking a break with that for a while because we want to focus on making the record and maybe eventually going back to Europe with that band. But the solo band, that's a different story altogether. I mean, that's something I'd like to do. I mean, without sounding hyper pretentious, I just want to do some bigger things with it. I want to play bigger venues. I want to get on a tour with a maybe more notable group. Just because I think it'd be nicer to play some bigger stages, be in front of more people.
Yeah.
Not that I dislike playing small clubs in front of 60 people, drunk and wasted. That's hella fun. But I do that a lot with Crazy Squeeze. We play a lot of bars, play a lot of clubs, and the solo thing, I want to. It's a little more of a show, So I want to present it that way. So I'm not exactly sure. I mean, the Andy McCoy show was a great thing to score. I'm very happy about that. That kind of level of performance is where I want to go.
Nice.
Talk about somebody like Alice Cooper. I mean, I'll never perform at that level. I don't think I'll ever bring in baby dolls and cut them up or something. Like, I still love shows to be just like a really cool energy exchange between 5 human beings on a stage, and not subjecting. Like, I worked at the Hollywood Bowl one year, years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, and so I got to see every show every night.
Oh,
and it was amazing. And believe me, if anybody wants to come to Los Angeles for a summer, what they should do is they should pick. The greatest thing they could do is try to get hired at the Hollywood Bowl, because it's only a seasonal job. You can only work there for 6 months, and then just find a place to rent for the summer and just work there, because you'll see the most amazing shows of your life. I mean, I saw show after show after show, but one night I saw Beck, and Beck puts on a show that I thought was so overwhelmingly obnoxious. I hated him for putting the show on, because it was all like stadium level floodlights that were flashing at seizure levels nonstop for 2 hours. I mean, you felt like you were being inundated with like you were in a prison yard. You know, I felt like I was in a prison yard, and you know, they're like, there's a prisoner escaping, there's a prisoner escaping, and you're like this the whole time, like Jesus. But the audience, his fan base, loved it, and so of course that led me to joke that I was like, well, you know, this is just Scientology hypnosis,
Right.
because it really, really was like that. So for me, that was just like, that was too much, you know. And sometimes there is a bit of that where, you know, it's like a Kiss show, you know, like Kiss, you know, how do you follow a band like Kiss, right? Kiss did sort of do what they set out to do, which was just like end anybody being able to follow, right? Because it's a huge production and experience, and an amazing one at that. That's a band that does it at a level where you're like, there's so much craft and there's so much style and care put, I think, into the production value of it, that
I agree.
You know, especially when you watch all those insane bootlegs from the 70s where you know, the technology wasn't where it is now, and like, you know, you're almost, the great thing about those shows is that it's like you're almost afraid the hydraulics are going to collapse.
Yeah, it's a little scary. Yeah.
I hope Ace doesn't die.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so that kind of gave it a level of almost danger in its own way. You know, where it was like, geez, are they going to survive this show, or are they going to get their head set? And the great thing is, not for them, but for us as lovers of rock and roll and the mythology of it, the history of it. I love everything about it. So, you know, those guys put themselves through hell in the 70s. Like that. And I love it. I love hearing about every time they're like, oh, the makeup ruined my skin. Or they're like talking about how like, oh, my hair got caught on fire, that's why I don't have any hair. So I love those stories, because it's like, but they did it for the rock and rolls, man. You know, they did it for the glory, you know. It's like, and there's something so poetic about that. As ridiculous and juvenile as that sounds as an adult, like thinking about it, like, what, you like let your hair get set on fire for the adventure of it? But not that somebody would let that on purpose, but the fact that it happened, it's just, you know, it's part and parcel of the the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I appreciate them even more for doing that. And what I guess what I'm ultimately saying is, a band like that, if you're going to do it, you do it. If you're going to do it like that, do it like Alice Cooper, do it like Kiss. Like, don't, I mean, that show was just like, it almost felt like a punishment, you know. It felt like you were being punished. Like, I paid $85 to be punished. Like, what do you know, like, I'm not in a prison yard, you know. It was too much. So I still love you know, I saw an interview with, I forget who it was recently. Somebody was talking, you know, some, of course, incredible like rock guitar player, maybe it was Keith Richards, was just talking about how having the nature of just 5 guys having an energy exchange with 50,000 people without, you know, the aid of a teleprompt, you know, a huge screen dictating the action. It's kind of a phenomenal thing, you know, because it's really, really raw, you know. And I remember when I would go to all the earliest shows I ever went to, you know, whether it was Poison Idea or Slayer or seeing, even I saw Peter Wolf, the singer of the Jake Isles Band in Chicago in the mid-90s, do a 3-hour show.
Wow.
At a club that held 120 people, and he acted as if it was, you know, he was playing in front of 30,000 people. It was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen. And so that's what I mean. I mean, it doesn't matter, you know, to any degree, that if that energy exchange is there, I mean, I'll never forget the time I saw Slayer in, I believe this was 91, at the LA Forum, and it turned into a riot. And I mean, straight up riot. I'm not talking about, this was right before this, probably maybe a year, 6 months or a year before the LA riots. It was insane. I mean, the place is packed. It's an LA audience. So, you know, Slayer is like, I mean, people are going nuts the whole show. by the way, this is early on, so like tons of weapons everywhere. People are pulling switchblades. They're cutting up the seats. They're throwing the cushions everywhere. You hear fireworks going off in the place every now and then and stuff. And it's the energy is just it's as intense as one of their records. But it felt right because you were like, the energy. It's the energy. And you could feel like the whole energy of the audience was completely integrated into the energy of the band. And the band, and the last song, and this is what really, really set it off, is the last song was Angel of Death. And I don't know, I forget even what Tom Araya said. He said something like, I think he tried to calm people down because he could see some shit was happening. He was like, but I don't want you to like, he's like, I want you to be able to, calm down a little bit. He's like, but I don't want you to, let go of your energy or something like that. And the minute they brought an Angel of Death, I mean, that place went ape shit. And somebody took like one of those strings of fireworks that, like has 100 firecrackers on it, lit it, threw it down onto the floor. And all I could see, because I was upwards, was I was looking down, all I could see was just people scatter. And it was, and of course, I'm thinking about this now, of course, if we didn't live in the world we live in now at that point. So we're just thinking about like, yeah, someone's lighting fireworks. No big deal. Look at those people scatter, and so now they're corralling everyone out, so as we're going out, people are breaking out the front windows of the Forum. They're just smashing the windows, shit, everything going crazy. Cops are arresting people left and right. We're just trying to get out of there, not thinking really that we're in harm's way at all. Right. Like just thinking like, oh, it's cool, man. It's Slayer. Slayer just played. It rocked. Everyone's just having a good time. Like when I look back on that, I just think that's a strange energy exchange right there. Yeah, like that everybody, like I'm not talking about just myself. I'm talking about the general mood of the place was like, yeah, so people are fucking shit up. It's cool. We'll all get out alive. Right. I don't think anyone died. I mean, I really don't. I mean, there was a lot of damage and a lot of violence, but I don't think anyone died. And once we got out on the street, I mean, people just were ripping their shirts off, freaking out, going, "Oh, I just saw the greatest thing of my life!" I guess my point ultimately being is that energy, that's what attracts us, is that the power of that energy exchange, which I guess could be negative too, but it didn't seem like it that night though. It was so intense. It was so amazing,
Yeah, that's crazy. I've been to a few shows where nothing like that, but yeah, some shows where that kind of intensity, and it's
well, I don't advise people to be at those. I mean, this was 30 years ago. This was not like
very different time. Very, very different time. That's crazy. Wow. So Frankie, this has been amazing, fascinating chatting with you. I do have one last question for you for the interview. So as you know, my page is Brews and Tunes. I pair craft beer with heavy metal and hard rock and punk and everything. So it's a Friday night. Frankie's hanging out at home. What beer are you drinking? What album are you spinning?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one because it could be a bunch of different things. But beer, it's typically going to be something German. I mean, I'm always trying to find German beer. I'll fall back on Beck's because it's the most plentiful, that you can find. Although, if I find Negro Modelo, I'll take that.
Oh, that's a good beer.
Because that's a good dark beer. Like that's a good dark beer that sort of can make up for not having a German beer.
Yeah.
And record I'm spinning, I mean, Friday night, it's going to be something hard, and it could be something up and rock and roll. Usually either the Stooges or AC/DC, Bon Scott era stuff, because it's got to be nasty. I mean, I love Brian Johnson. I love Brian Johnson and Geordie too, but I love Brian Johnson because amazing singer, but man, nobody is as gnarly and nasty. I mean, Bon Scott is like straight up Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley, Chuck
Yeah.
Berry, like old school rock and roller, you know. So yeah, that's definitely good. Or UFO too. Let's put UFO. That's a Friday night band for me.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen UFO probably 7 times.
Oh, nice.
And man, they never fail to deliver. Even no matter what lineup, Phil Mogg is always he's on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I only wish I would have saw him with Shanker, but I never got a chance to see him with Shanker.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah. I've never seen UFO, but yeah, and I think all those lineups are, in those early years, their newer stuff, it's spot on. That band is spot on. Always just a killer band.
I love it.
Yeah, just so good. Well, Frankie, thank you so much for chatting with me this evening.
Thank you, Victor.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, cheers, my
great.
friend. Yeah, this is awesome.
Thank you.